The aquarium, a lot of times when you talk about conservation, the aquarium is the driver of the revenue that allows for that conservation to happen at the aquarium. And you just like when you mentioned your the projects, the oyster bed and the sea gas project, you could make maybe an exhibit out of those, and so you're doing the education of the people, but you're also doing the reintroduction. You see a lot of aquariums doing the same thing. So sometimes research is done there, but it's also a display. Sometimes it's just there's sort of reproduction, sort of conservation going out there for endangered species, and so it's really interesting to see how that's done. But it's also the money that goes from the tickets sold for people to go into the aquarium. Part of that money, whatever the percentage might be, will go towards those conservation programs. And you need to have that revenue system in order to have that conservation, those conservation programs to exist, because it's just, like I said before, you could incorporate them into part of the aquarium, but having that revenue is a really, that's the main thing, for the main driver for these conservation programs. Whereas the Shark Trust, a lot of times it'll be grants or it'll be donations for the work that you're already doing, the conservation that you're already doing. And I just think we're seeing that revenue system sort of come into play with, I find I'm seeing with a lot of people who are coming up within sort of conservation now, is you're trying to like, how can I get, because the money for conservation, as we mentioned, it's not, people are not coming into marine conservation for the monetary, acceleration. You're not getting the big bucks. You're not going to get a mansion and so forth. But you could have a side business or a business that helps you generate that revenue to support your personal lifestyle and still do conservation. But you have to be focused on that revenue system first and establish that. Hence, like if a pipe bursts or leaks or something like that in an aquarium, you have to be focused on that first, and you have to have people for that. So it's a really interesting way of sort of dividing up how we get revenue from things for conservation. And so I guess my question to you is, like, seeing you've been in both models, is there one easier than the other? Is there one that you would, like, if you were to go back again, would you use the aquarium model or something similar to that? Or do you find like the Shark Trust model still a tried and tested way of generating revenue?
Bit of both, actually. I mean, it's actually one of the things that we've been trying to do more at the Shark Trust is using those kind of models where you can hook into what we call unrestricted funding. So a lot of the time in conservation NGO world, it's grant, as you said, it's grant funding, which comes with restrictions, right? Which comes with here's a chunk of money that needs to be spent on this. These are the priorities. Here are the outcomes. Give us a report at the end. And if you don't do it, you don't get your final payment. And that is, hugely important. That kind of income is hugely important to an organisation like ours, and we're always grateful to those institutions that are able to provide that support. But there is a certain sense of that doesn't give you complete freedom over how you spend your money and how you develop new projects and how you maybe start to kind of seed fund new ideas before they become fundable. So with the Shark Trust, we've been doing a lot of work on trying to generate unrestricted funding, and that comes from personal donations and fundraising. People running marathons and so on and so forth. It also comes from relationships with businesses and corporates. Comes from engaging with philanthropists and high net worth individuals who can afford to give, and kind of creating that balance of funding for the trust has been really important to how we're able to operate. And it does borrow a little bit from the kind of thinking that we had at the aquarium.